Coming up on this week's episode of the Universe of Magic podcast, we're going to talk holiday traditions because we have nothing to talk about. Wait, Bob Chapek got fired? I guess we'll talk about that up next. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Universe of Magic podcast. My name is John. Of course, you knew that. And I'm joined, well, I got to do it right this time. How's it going, Alyssa?
It is dandy because I am less than 48 hours from my next Walt Disney World vacation.
We squeezed this in because we had to talk about holidays at Disney World, of course. Like, what else are we going to talk about? I mean, come on. Like,
you know.
you got your Disney World Hollywood shirt on, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Already.
I'm not selling them because that would be a copyright issue. But if anyone wants tips to make their own less than $20 versions, that's the $90 version.
Follow her for more recipes.
Yes.
At Magic and Adventure. Thank you.
Yes. And then Jeff is always here with us, and we're glad that he is. So how's it going, Jeff?
Oh, I'm not doing too bad. I'm fighting some allergies, so I'll be a little nasally today. So I apologize to our viewers and to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going, John, I think you're next.
Listen, let's keep the good streak going here. As always, we are brought to you by Moments of Magic Travel for all Disney, Orlando, Universal theme parks, you name it, cruise line, Adventures by Disney. Go to momentsofmagictravel.com for all that great information, and you can use our Find an Agent feature because, of course, why wouldn't you want to use an agent that's close by? So, with that being said, there's a lot going on, and I don't know. Where do you guys want to lead off? Jeff, why don't you lead us off and we'll talk about what's going on?
It's definitely been a interesting last 48 hours in the world of Disney. You know, it was like everybody was just talking about these Taylor Swift and her tickets, and then Disney said hold my beer, and we had all hell break loose. You know, you heard about Bob Chapek and the layoffs that were going to be coming to Disney. I don't think he realized he was going to be one of them. So I think we need to talk about that a little bit first, guys. I think we need to talk about that
and Disney bought this unfinished cruise ship that's gonna seat 6,000 people. Where are they going? And then boom, Chapek. I mean, come on. I was in bed almost asleep, and then Alyssa's like, "Oh my god, you guys, it happened." And listen, I'm not going to be a person that just will just sit there and just point fingers. I will say we'll talk about what we didn't like and what we're looking forward to. But there was a moment last December when I was at the parks, and I forgot what was going on at the time, but something came out and maybe more price increases or pretty much you name it, and the cast members at Big Thunder Mountain just look so beaten down. And I'm like, you know what, guys? And I said this with all honesty to them. I'm like, the upstairs could be on fire, but you guys are down here keeping it magical. So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And, they smiled and said thank you. I mean, because it's honestly, that was what was going. You had the leadership. I'll have to look at and see what happened because it's going to bother me. But just, I've heard so many different theories as to why he was let go. He was Lex Luthor or a Bond villain in a magical theme park.
And they did it. And they did it at 9 or 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday. So there must have been something that really went down, man. I would love to have been a fly on the wall. You know, I mean, I could just see somebody walking in and saying, "Thank you for your services. Here's a fast pass to hit a couple rides on your way out." You know, I mean, it's an interesting story that I would love to hear about someday. But
Yeah.
to be honest with you guys, you know, I am cautiously optimistic about the future because obviously, if one Bob was brought out and one Bob was brought back in, you know, Mr. Iger still is going to be tasked with helping them, you know, bring up revenue that apparently they lost in their last quarter. I mean, they had just renewed Bob Chapek's contract. They had just renewed it, and then for them to turn around and say you're gone, it's crazy, right? So I'm cautiously optimistic because I like Bob Iger's vibe. I've always been a fan of his. You know, when with what he did with the parks, I'll always be an Eisner fan first. But I thought, you know, Iger done great things. He's responsible for so many of the things that I love in the theme parks, Disney Plus. But guys, we got to be realistic. He's brought back in to help them make money again. So I don't think we're gonna see what a lot of these fangirls and fanboys, and that's what we are too, to a degree. But I don't think we're gonna see the park reservation system go away anytime soon. I don't think we're gonna see Genie Plus go away. You know, will it be restructured and relooked at? We'll see. You know, I got my wants, but I'm being cautiously optimistic. You know, what do you think, Alyssa? You've been
Yeah, I think I saw someone posted something about it, and they made a good point. They're like, Bob Chapek could be a very good CEO for a multi-billion-dollar company. Disney was just not the company.
right.
So I think when you have this kind of fan base, and like he did in some ways prior to this quarter earnings, have a lot of strategies to make them more money, but that was at the disadvantage of the guests, and so I think I think that's why I like Bob Iger, because he was always focused on the guests. He was always focused on the cast members and like them being happy too. So, and I feel like we never really got that vibe from Chapek. So yeah, was he a good businessman? I think he was, but it just was not for the right setting.
Yeah, and
If that makes sense.
And I think too the difference between Chapek and Iger is Iger was always creative focused, and you brought it up that you know Chapek was straight businessman. Like, and when you have a straight businessman, aka a Bond villain, basically like try to be creative, it's just not going to happen. He's going to come up with ways to make money, and honestly, like the Disney community is very boisterous, and like you have, I mean, you have parents with small kids, you have old people like me who just like want to be there and feel like a kid again. Like on it, and like there's been times. I mean, the fact that like I want to take a year off and go to do other Disney things kind of tells you about how I feel about Walt Disney World. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could plan a trip like that and be happy because like that is my happy place. Like there are moments like watching fireworks in the hub basically is just my jam. Like, eating steak. All the things that I enjoy are basically things that like I really, really like. That's still going to be there. It's just I was kind of protesting in my mind because I did not like Chapek. And like honestly, like the stark difference between Iger and Chapek is Iger kind of picked his battles, right? Like we were talking in our group chat, and basically we were talking about how Iger was apolitical. Like he didn't take sides. I mean, in his personal life, he takes sides, and that's fine. But like when you step into a work environment, you got to be neutral. You have to be without agenda. You have to be company focused. You have to like bring kind of Disney back to what it was. And I think that's basically what's going to happen. I think he's going to try to restore the chaos that is the cast members not being happy, the fan base not being happy, all these things that we're hearing, and basically seeing on a micro level, like hopefully it gets fixed,
Go ahead, Jeff.
That's what I want from Iger, is for him to do what he does so well and be diplomatic about so many different things. Chapek was just in your face, and if you don't like it, and and that's just how he was. And having some
Hmm.
friends that are cast members and really in that Disney fabric down there on a day-to-day basis who I've talked to since Sunday, they are absolutely optimistic and happy. They said the vibe just going to work has been different. I read
Mhm.
a meme the other day that said that when it got around Magic Kingdom on late Sunday night, because I think it was one of the late night hours, it was kind of like the Wizard of Oz scene where the witch died, and all the Munchkins were happy. Like they said it was like a really like a party environment.
Hmm.
But again, as a shareholder for Disney, I don't know if you guys are or not, but as a shareholder, there were things about Chapek that obviously from the get go I kind of liked, but they never really materialized. He
Well,
didn't.
I think seeing the stock market immediately switch
Yeah.
overnight, and granted, I think it's leveled off a little bit, but immediately went up after
Well, I,
Chapek was
I think that
fired.
was the final straw. I just think when it got down to, was it $55 on Sunday or whatever it was, I think that was the final straw.
Something.
It's the lowest it had
Hmm.
been since COVID. I think that was the final straw because money talks, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the one of the misconceptions I keep seeing on some of the fan sites and in videos is that Chapek he brought in so many things that people didn't like, such as Genie Plus, and that's such an erroneous error. That Genie
Hmm.
Plus, the whole
Right.
platform was Iger's idea. It was implemented under Chapek, but I mean there were things that Iger had started the ball rolling on. So you got to get the true information when you're looking at this whole thing. I don't think Genie Plus is going anywhere. I don't think individual Lightning lanes are going anywhere. It may be different. There may be a old Fast Pass Plus element to it. Maybe they will bring back some Fast Pass elements, or maybe the park reservation system will change and open up in different ways. I think he'll definitely be, like John just said, he's more focused on the fan base and the employees. I mean, I love what he did. One of the very first things he did was send an email to all the employees. You guys have probably read
Hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
online. It was so heartfelt
Hmm.
and it made me happy. That's what a good CEO does, and I think he will
Hmm.
bring back the light, if you want to call it, to the Disney fans' eyes and the heart back to the employees, because that's really what this experience is for me that I enjoy so much, is happy cast members and happy fans. That's what makes a
Hmm.
great Disney
Because
experience.
even when I was there in July, yeah, even when I was in there in July, it was really, really hard on the cast members.
Yeah.
Just talking to, because that's what I do. I'm a talker by nature, and just talking to them and like getting their take on things. It just, at that point, it was kind of like, okay, you know, and the fact that they renewed his contract in February was just mind boggling to me, because like the vibe of that, like the employee base. I mean, no wonder you have such, when you this is the thing that like baffled me. He immediately talked about hiring freezes, and like you look at billboards around Orlando, Disney's hiring, Disney's hiring. Disney has how many people a day go through their gates, and you're talking hiring freezes. I mean, yeah, I like get it. The financial storm that's all of us are experiencing is hard, but I don't know. I didn't believe that, and then the whole thing, like I think and you go back, what was it, a year ago, when on a earnings call, one of his like senior management people were talking about the waistlines of customers, like it was just one of those things where it was just, they weren't really connected. And like Disney, when you go to Disney, it's about connection. Like that's, at least for me, when I like talk to people about Disney, it's about connection, because like it invokes memories, it invokes, emotion, and invokes all these things that make us passionate as fans about it.
Yeah, it's the experience.
Yeah.
It's experience based.
Mm-hmm.
And having a son that's getting ready to go work at Disney World here in January. I was a little apprehensive about him going into the environment that Chapek had created to a certain degree. It's not 100% him, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of what flourished. I'm a lot happier now dropping him off in January, knowing that he's going to be in an environment that seems to be more optimistic and people are happy with who's in charge. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that the layoffs and the freezes are going to be maybe what Chapek had thought they were going to be under Iger. I think he'll find a way to, rather than laying off people, maybe expand and open it up a different way. I hope he attacks it versus
Mm-hmm.
trying to be defensive. But we'll see, guys. It's going to be an interesting, I think, next 12 to 18 months. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the thing that people aren't really talking about much either is that Iger only signed a 2-year contract. So obviously he's not
Yep, I
here
was just
for
going to
the
bring that
long
up.
haul. Yep, he's not here for the long haul. So who's he going to groom? Because he groomed Chapek. They were good friends before it. They had a falling out after it. You know, personally, I think it's probably going to be Josh. Josh tomorrow probably will be the next one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had ideas that it could be somebody from the creative side like Disney Plus, but hell, they just hacked their guy over there as well. The other day I read another person was just fired. So
Yeah.
they're going to be in disarray. It's going to be interesting next 12 to 18 months as
How would
Iger
you
prepares to leave again.
how would you guys feel if Josh tomorrow did take over?
Um,
Hypothetically.
you know, I guess I'd have to do a little bit more research into that. I visually see him being a fan favorite from the park perspective. People stop, take pictures with him. He's very out front and in front of the clients and likes to talk to them. Hell, I've had a conversation, with him, I think 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't even realize he was him until after the
Mm-hmm.
fact. He's always out in the parks. But I've also heard
Mm-hmm.
he's very similar to Chapek's style as far as the business side. So I don't know how to answer that, Alyssa, right now.
I wonder if he's a balance of Iger and Chapek.
And
Maybe he
maybe that's
does
what they
have that
need.
business side of Chapek, but he's a little more guest focused or
Yeah.
in cast member
Whoever it
focused.
is,
I
whoever
was
replaces
reading an
Iger,
article about. Mhm.
I say whoever replaces Iger, you can pretty much guarantee it won't be a Chapek type person again, totally, because I think they learned their lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was that article, John?
Well, it was basically like talking about like how it went from Eisner to Iger, and Eisner, I forgot who he had. The name escapes me, but he had kind of a business person behind him where Eisner could focus on the creative. So maybe they need to like do something similar. Um,
True.
just to kind of balance the palette a little bit, because like,
Yeah.
oof, like, and I do think that like in going into what we expect, I am hopeful that you know Mr. Iger will like bring back some of the like not getting rid of Genie Plus, because let's face it, it makes some money. People buy it not really knowing what the product is. They're thinking it's the old Fast Pass, and you know it is what it is. It's useful, but we can argue the semantics of it another time. But I honestly think that they need to get rid of the reservation system or bring back annual passes. Throw the fan base a bone, because let's face it, we're jaded right now. Like
Yeah.
the tube.
My thought is that with Iger back, this is getting everybody excited, and it'll die down for a little bit in a few months, and then they'll have another thing to like make us
Mm-hmm.
like to help boost the morale. Like I think if they're going to change anything first, it's the thing that's not really losing them money, which is they might either bump up or remove the park hopping restrictions. That's my thing. I have a feeling they're not going to get rid of the park pass system, but at least changing that allows a lot more
Yeah.
flexibility for
Mm-hmm.
people. So like, okay, I couldn't get my reservation for Magic Kingdom, but I can hop over to Animal Kingdom for 2 hours and then head over to Magic Kingdom, and
Yep.
I'm
Yes.
good. So
Yep.
I agree with
something like that, I could see them
Yep.
changing.
I agree with you, Alyssa, 100%. I don't think the park pass reservation system is going anywhere anytime soon. I think they like being able to forecast on a day to day basis where they need to send staff or whatever. It
Mm-hmm.
had its use. It had its use when COVID, hit to manage capacity, but I think they found 101 more uses for it since then, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I'm not one of the people that hate it, to be honest with you, but I'm also not a local. The locals are the
Yeah.
ones that truly have issues with it because it prohibits them from just getting in their car after work and going to the parks. And I get that. But not being a local, I look at it a bit differently. I actually don't have an issue from the way that I'm using it right now, but
Mhm.
this is going to be my second winter in Florida, and as I get more acclimated to that lifestyle, I'm probably going to be
Mhm.
shifting sides and saying this does suck. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
adjusting the park hopping time, that would be a huge bone to throw at us if they could do that anytime soon. And I think a bone will be thrown very quickly. I do.
I
I think
almost
it'll.
think
Probably.
they have to.
Yep, they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I
They'll give
almost
us
think they
something.
have to.
They'll give us
Yeah.
something for the holidays. I think to be happy about. But speaking of the holidays, Alyssa,
Yes.
you're going there in just a couple days. We should probably talk a little bit about what you're going to expect at the holidays. Being that I just came back last year, I was down there for the whole holiday season, and what some of our viewers might expect at Disney World for the
Mhm.
holidays because it's magical. It's my favorite time of year to go. It's
I have not
unbelievable.
been to Disney World for the holidays since 2018.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so it's been a hot second. So I got married. My 4-year anniversary is coming up, and we went to Disney immediately after the wedding, of course. So that was the last time that I've been there. So I'm really really excited to get back because I think it's probably my favorite time of year too. I've been there for the fall Halloween season 2 years in a row now. So, but I feel like I'm kind of Halloween maxed out.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready for this, which I've never been to Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. So this will be my first.
Oh, you'll
I
love it. You're gonna
I
love
Which,
it.
think my wife and I
yeah.
went once, and we enjoyed it. Like it doesn't have the same vibe as not so scary, but it's also really really fun. Like
That's what everyone keeps telling me. So I'm excited. My husband's never been to any after hours, any party or anything. So this is his first. He keeps saying we're going to some fancy shindig, and I'm like, I guess in some ways it's a fancy shindig, but like you don't have to dress up for it or anything. We're just going to the park.
I will
So
tell you, Florida cold. I live outside Buffalo. Like we had not my neck of the woods, but like my neighbors down south here had about 77 inches of snow. Florida cold is different than Buffalo cold.
it
So
is.
John's pro tip of the day:
Yes,
Florida Florida is cold.
so even though I lived in Florida for like 30 years, after our wedding, I just was not prepared. I had jeans, I had a shirt, I had a jacket, and I don't even know what the temperature was. It was in the 40s at night, which is different in Florida than the 40s up here, and I was freezing. And so I remember I spent $50 on a blanket,
Oh,
and I borrowed my husband's jacket. It was freezing. So we're being prepared this time. I'm
mhm.
bringing this sweatshirt and some other things so I don't have to spend $50 on a blanket again. But it actually, knock on wood, it's supposed to be really beautiful weather during the day, like upper 70s, lower 80s, and
Mhm.
then just cool down into like the 60s at night, which
Yeah,
I can handle.
you
Like
So,
should be
it,
good.
it, yeah, it
yeah.
lowered down. I think when we went, I think that was the year that, well, no, last year we went with my in-laws, and it was cold. Like I remember a couple years ago, we were at Wilderness Lodge, um, and we went to dinner, and I raided the the gift shop. I bought a hat, I bought gloves, I bought a
Mhm.
jacket or a hoodie because it was freezing, and like it's just a different type of cold. So yeah,
Yep. So,
so
but my goal though is that up here again, living in Florida most of my life, this was foreign to me. They just have community pools. Very
mhm.
few houses actually have a pool, and so but my community pool is only open from like the beginning of June to like the beginning of August. So I am going in that pool.
Oh
I don't
boy.
care what the temperature is. If it's in the 60s at night, I'm going in and I don't care.
Mhm.
Because compared to the 20s that I'm leaving the house every morning right now, it's good. I'm probably going to be sweating in 60
Yeah.
degrees. So I am excited.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So,
I
so let's
will.
talk about.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, let's talk about the holidays a little bit. Let's talk about what to expect for those families that are looking at, maybe going still this year or maybe next year. Having been there just on the backside of COVID last year and the year before COVID hit, 2019, we were there. The experience really wasn't all that different, other than the fact that we saw a few people last year still wearing masks. Which, Alyssa, you're not going to have to probably see that as much this year. But the way that Disney does holidays is absolutely incredible. From
Yep.
the parade, like you just talked about, the additional nighttime shows, to the decorations themselves. Magic Kingdom, if you guys want to start there, it's a total transformation that they do from October 31st to November 1st. That's usually the first holiday I'm going to call it park, the holiday decorations that go up immediately is at Magic Kingdom. It's like
Hmm.
you wake up on the 31st in Booville, and you wake up on the 1st in Santiville, and that's just the way Disney does it. And then they gradually spread Christmas cheer around the rest of the resort and the parks and the
Hmm.
hotels over the next several days. So, Alyssa, the Magic Kingdom, obviously you're going to walk in there and see that beautiful tree on right in front of Main Street, and they actually make it snow there, for the parade, which is pretty cool. You know,
Nope.
yeah,
Nope.
snow. Right? Yep.
If you have an expensive camera, don't
Yeah,
don't bring it out around the snow. Pro
yeah.
tip.
Don't
I'm
pull it
pulling it
out.
tonight.
It smells nice. It definitely smells nice, but it's just a cool experience. I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to you doing that. The one pro tip
I'm,
that I'm going to give is if you happen to be there, I guess on Christmas night and or New Year's Eve night, and I know you're not going to be that long, but those are difficult days to get in and out of the park. I can remember
Hmm.
last year, New Year's Eve, it took us almost 2 hours to get from the front of the castle to where the monorail was.
insane.
It's crazy, and to the point when we finally got to the monorail, it was still another 2 hour wait. So we took advantage of that new walk around Grand Floridian and walked
Yeah.
back to the Chicken Transportation Center. So it can be busy. My point is people need to prepared for a little bit bigger crowds. Definitely want to take advantage of the Genie Plus this time of year, even though they
Speaking
raised the
of, I
price.
did yeah, did you see though that Genie Plus went up to $29 today
Yep, yep.
per
Yesterday actually.
person? Or
Yesterday,
yes, you're right. Yesterday. So and
yesterday.
today again it was $29. So
Yep, and I'm
yeah,
sure.
I mean they're trying to go with the demand. They know it's one of the busiest weeks of the year
Yep.
with
Hmm.
Thanksgiving 2 days away. So which I was a bit hesitant to even go to Disney during this trip. I mean my family lives down there. It's the main reason we're going, but I was kind of like, oh well, why not? We're there anyway, but. I was hesitant, but then actually the reason why I decided to go is I went to go see what options there were for hotels, and this was maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, and there was a bunch, and
Hmm.
so it kind of left me hopeful that at least on the days I was planning to go, it wasn't going to be too crazy. And
Right.
now the day I'm going to Magic Kingdom is blocked out, but the other parks aren't, and so I don't think it'll be as nuts, but Christmas is always no matter what. Like you
Hmm.
can't get away from that because everybody's off. So
Yeah, I
everybody's
think
going
I,
at
I
that
think they'll
time.
keep I think they'll keep the elevated price until Monday. I bet you this coming Monday it
Yeah.
goes back to $15. They'll do it through the weekend, and then with the whole Iger coming back thing, I'm going to be interested to see if they do it again at Christmas time, um, because
Hmm.
it could be a different mindset for Christmas, or they'll decide
Mhm.
how much they sold of it right now. Did it hurt their
Hmm.
sales? Because I got
True.
two families there right now who decided not to purchase it on a day-to-day basis because of the price hike. And they both told me that in their first 2 days in the park, they got on everything, didn't have any issues because
Great.
a lot of the wait times, Alyssa, were overinflated. So,
Hmm.
you saw a standby line that says 60 minutes and it was 20-25 minutes.
Wow.
So hopefully you encounter the same thing. When you get there, what day do you get there?
Well, we're getting down there Thanksgiving Day. We're not going to the parks until Saturday.
Okay, okay. So you'll be at the tail end of it of the crowds, and you'll have probably
Mm-hmm.
a few days without the crowds.
Yeah.
Speaking of crowds, I have to try to find this photo, and if I find this photo, I'm going to put it in right here. But there was a picture. My wife and I were at Animal Kingdom. Had to have been the day after we went to Wilderness Lodge for dinner because I had the hat, and there was this guy that just walked in front of my photo at the tree at Animal Kingdom, and the look of disdain I gave this guy, I'm just like, oh my, you can cut ice with my stare. So it's very crowded, but you can do it. It's totally manageable. Trust us.
And then pro tip is if you're okay, or if you have 2 days in Magic Kingdom, or you're okay not seeing the fireworks on Main Street, to go to Magic Kingdom on a party day because it's typically much less crowded, or to go to the party, which is much less crowded since it's there's only so many people allowed. So I'm excited. Every review I've seen so far of people who have gone to the party are getting to do all the rides that they want. They're going to do all the experiences, the shows, everything, and they're saying it's worth every penny. So I am really excited. I'm also excited for the overlays. So when I did Mickey's Not So Scary for the Space Mountain overlay for Mickey's Not So Scary was amazing, and the one for Christmas looks even cooler because because Halloween was pitch black, and then Christmas is the lights on. So I'm like really excited to try that.
They're gonna wrap Christmas lights all over Space Mountain. Which
that would actually be cool if they did that. But
pro tip,
I thought
is not very comfortable for a guy my size, being 6'10" and all.
But yeah, so I'm excited for those things, like the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor overlay, like all that stuff. I think that's just an added little touch because I feel like Disneyland does an amazing job of all their overlays and everything, in Cars Land and Haunted Mansion and all that, and we don't have really that much. So the fact that for the parties they make a point to do that, I think is great. It makes it just a little extra worth the cost of it.
You're gonna pop over to Epcot too one day, aren't you?
So not this trip. We debated. I know. We went back and forth on it.
Because they just announced the overlay. They just announced the overlay for Guardians.
I know. So, lots of song choices I saw, not just 6. So, I know. We really went back and forth, honestly, on adding a park hopper option so that we could go over to Epcot because Chris hasn't done Guardians yet. But it would have been like almost $150 for the two of us to add the park hopper on a holiday weekend.
Wow.
So it just wasn't worth the price. I was like, I know we're going to go back. So, yeah. So, no, we're doing a full day Magic Kingdom, a resort day / the party, and then we're doing me and Trip are doing a half day on Monday at Hollywood Studios. Then we fly out that evening. So, yeah. Well, so no Epcot, which is sad. But
well, let's stay on Epcot for a moment because that's like that's my favorite park during the holidays, just because of the way that each country celebrates Christmas in their native culture, which is cool. You got Pierre Noël out in France, and it's just really cool to see how all 11 countries celebrate Christmas. That's one of my favorite things to do when we go there for the holidays. But the ultimate thing at Epcot is the candlelight processional. If you guys have ever been able to do that before, it's beautiful music, usually by local choirs that come to sing. But you always have a celebrity narrator, and they released the list, obviously several months ago. But you got people like Pat Sajak, you got people like Chris Hemsworth over at Disneyland in California that does their candlelight processional or their show. They really bring some really cool elements to that. So if anybody's watching this and thinking about which parks I should pick, definitely make Epcot one of your parks. Feel bad you're not able to go over there, Alyssa, but it's such a cool vibe at Epcot. It's probably my favorite of all the holiday traditions at Disney.
Again, if we didn't have our almost 2-year-old, Epcot would have been the number one choice. But with him, he can do so much more at Magic Kingdom. It just makes sense. So
obviously.
I mean, you're basically stuck with Living with the Land and Figment and Three Caballeros and
right. Because even on my half day, Chris has to work that Monday, and I was like, my first thought was, Epcot, but then I was like, well, what are we gonna like? It's just me and him. I don't have a rider swap option or anything, so it just didn't make sense. Whereas he can actually do quite a few different things in Hollywood Studios. So I tell people all the time, This is my opinion, but I think doing the dining package to get the guaranteed seating for the candlelight processional
Yep.
is key because it fills up. Like
Mm-hmm.
some people, I've heard people get frustrated because they're like, "Oh, I spent all that extra money," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you didn't have to wait in line for 2 hours to get into it, and you got a
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed seat and a front row seat, like at that."
Mm-hmm.
So, like that makes it worth it totally. So
And
it's because it's so beautiful. It's so
it
good.
it is, and obviously sitting down there in a front row seat is the optimal way to watch that thing or being close up. But for the families that are watching this that can't afford to do maybe the additional things like the package where you can get in there. The cool thing about the way the America's Theater is set up is that if you absolutely got there and you couldn't afford that and you went in with the general public and you were way back, or you got there, you just were walking by and you were there late, you can see everything by doing standby in the back too. It's not
Mm-hmm.
the most comfortable way to see it, but it's a cool vibe for the people that don't want to be the ultimate planners and get there early, like me, an hour and a
Mm-hmm.
half early for the best seats. Because there are
And
there are
then,
people out there who live by the seat of their pants. If you're
mm-hmm.
that type of person, you can still see that show.
Sure.
And like I know they do this with like the Food and Wine concert series and the Garden Rocks concert series for Flower and Garden. They sell day of dining packages for a lot of these things. So
Yep.
again, we're full of pro tips tonight because I mean, hey, we're travel agents. We kind of know this stuff. If you go to the parks and you go to like Regal Eagle, chances are they will. I'm not sure if they're doing it for the candlelight processional, but they do sell day of candlelight processional packages or packages for these festival shows. So we'll try to get on that and see if they're doing that. But like it's another thing to consider. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking right now, and I'm seeing that there's still spots available for tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So I mean,
Sweet.
it's it's for the planners and for the non-planners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Again, we mentioned like the locals earlier. Like that's the thing is there's so many locals who are they don't mind coming and waiting 2 hours for
Yep.
something. So, but if this is a once in a lifetime trip and you can spend it, great. And if you can't, like kind of like you said, you can always just walk up. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy
And
enough. So,
and we've just
um,
highlighted Epcot and Magic Kingdom there, guys. For those of you that are going over to Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom, they decorate to the hilt as well in their own fun way. Obviously, Hollywood Studios are going to be more of a Hollywood vibe to the whole Christmas thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have more of the, I guess you
You
call
go to
it,
Hollywood and Vine. I think they do
yeah.
like the special, Christmas like they do with Halloween with like Mickey and the gang and stuff like that. So it's like one of those things where it's like it's everywhere. And we're forgetting one of the coolest aspects of like Christmas at Disney World: the gingerbread houses
Yeah,
all
oh,
over the resorts. Like
yeah.
that is honestly, who doesn't love the smell of gingerbread? It's like you go to the Contemporary, you go to the Grand Floridian. Um, Beach Club has something. I
they
think
have like a
Port.
carousel. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a carousel. Wilderness Lodge has something. You could literally spend a non-park day hopping around to all these different resorts and basically getting whiffs of delicious gingerbread. It's like
We
totally
we
awesome.
we done that last year,
Mm-hmm.
John. We took one day and
Mm-hmm.
just and resort hopped. We didn't get to every resort, but I think we went to 15 of them in one day last year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, just
That's
driving
amazing.
around and we went to Wilderness. We went to all the ones on the monorail. We went
Yep.
out to all the ones because we were staying in the Epcot resort area. We were at Boardwalk,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
we got to do all the ones in the Epcot resort area too. And then we popped over to some of our favorites. And it's funny to say this, but one of our family's favorites is Pop Century. Why?
Hmm.
Being a Disney Vacation Club owner, why does my family like Pop Century? Because when we first started going to Disney, when my kids were small, and before
Yep.
we were able to be a little bit more financially viable now, that's where we went to get in our foot in the door was Pop Century. So for a nostalgic reason, my kids still love to stay there once every year or every couple years. We stay at Pop Century for nostalgic reasons. I love that place. Obviously, a lot of my
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, one of the best resorts on property because it's on the Skyliner loop and
yep.
basically like for probably 2/3 or a third less than staying at a true moderate. You can stay at like Pop Century and be close to all the Epcot resorts. The food's pretty good. You can, walk across the bridge to the Art of Animation Resort for a really good food court. It's just like, there's ways to really like make the most of, your budget.
You you bring up a good point again. Non parks. The Christmas tree trail at Disney Springs.
Yep.
That's free. You
Yeah.
don't need admission to get there, and that was one of my favorite things when I still lived in Florida to go see, because you could spend a couple hours going to all the trees and everything, and they really do them up nowadays.
And here's another pro tip.
Trees designed by cast members. Yep. Pro tip.
Yep. And here's another pro tip at Hollywood or at Disney Springs. You can actually use a virtual queue over there now.
Yes.
And get a spot for Santa Claus over there. So I mean, most people don't realize that. They get there, they get frustrated. There's a virtual queue right in your app to see Santa Claus.
Yeah. Pro tip, Mom and Dad, because Chris and I are going to the party, and they're taking their grandson to Disney Springs.
There you go.
So Mom and Dad, if you're listening, get that virtual queue.
Awesome. Yeah, that's John. You brought up
so many.
You brought up such a good valid point that the holidays aren't just in the parks, man. The resorts is a cool way if you're low on funds and you can't afford to do a ton, but you're near Disney or at Disney World. All these resorts are free to get into. They'll let you in during the holidays. Parking might be a little bit tougher. They may have you way out in a back lot or something like that, or you may have to take a Skyliner or something to get to some of these resorts. But you can go there, enjoy the restaurants, the shops, and really get in a great Christmas atmosphere at the resorts. It's awesome.
And honestly, you're in the bubble. Like, where else would you rather be?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, can I give a non-Disney related tip?
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So part of our adventures this coming week is something we've done several times. We're going to ice at the Gaylord Palms, which if you've never done that, and it happens at every Gaylord in the country. And so this year at the Palms, it's Grinch themed. So I'm incredibly excited about that. And it's not that expensive. You can also get a package where you get a bunch of different activities to do in addition to the ice exhibit, but it's 9 degrees, like single digit 9. And they give you a big giant blue parka, and you go through, and it's just gigantic. It's like every conference room filled of ice sculptures. And I want to say when I got my tickets, they were like maybe $35. I got them early. So it's not outrageous, and it's a really fun experience. So
awesome.
that we were doing Friday.
That's awesome.
Very excited about it. So it's something we used to do every year.
There's just so much to do, and like I'm in talks with Leslie to like create a YouTube channel for the agency just to highlight all the stuff you can do, because it's like, we don't just specialize in Disney and Universal. We specialize in everything, every aspect of travel. You want to do it, give us a shout. We can help you. You were gonna say?
I was just gonna say, non-Disney, she was on that vibe. I mean, Universal does the holidays really cool too. The vibe's a little bit different over there, but you got the Grinch. Obviously, you got the whole Harry Potter holiday overlay that they do. There's so many cool things.
You've got the Macy's parade there. It's a slightly smaller scale of the actual Macy's parade. They use some old Macy's balloons from past parades, like in New York City. And I know this because I was in marching band in high school, and I marched the Macy's parade in Universal several years. And they take care of their band members. You get free park to park tickets when you do that. So that was an incredible experience, because then they really go out. They have their giant floats, and they have confetti going on everywhere. Like, it's really awesome. So,
and I forgot the confetti earlier. I was gonna have confetti in the kazoo for the Chapek firing talk. But what the heck? All right. Anyway.
But you do bring up a good point, though. Universal does a good job as well. It's different. It's definitely different than Disney, but it
is. And we talk about Disney probably the majority here on our conversation, but yeah, we do Universal. We do a lot of the Orlando-based destinations. Moments of Magic is not just Disney. We're so much more than that. But obviously, Disney is where we started. That's our grassroots. So that's this conversation that we center around most of the time. But guys, the holidays at Disney World are absolutely incredible. It's one of my two favorite times a year, right next to
Mhm.
spring. Springtime, the flower and garden time at Disney is probably just
Mhm.
as highly rated. But the holidays are absolutely incredible. I'm really excited for you, Alyssa, to experience this the next few days. You and your family. It's awesome. We were just there last year. We're taking this year off. We'll probably end up back there next year or the year after. We do it about every 2 to 3 years, just because of
Mhm.
the sheer amount of things you do and how exhausted you come back home from it because you want to get everything in. It's about every 2 to 3 year. For me and my family being movie screeners. John, when are you going to go down there for Christmas next?
Probably next year.
Okay.
We our vacation plans are kind of in flux because we do have the Disneyland trip coming
Woo-hoo.
up in September. Yeah, which is going to be big. So hopefully, we will get to the point where we'll be able to pen down some reservations, but not for a while because it's not until September. But
And I'm so happy
uh,
you're going in September. I'm so happy
yes,
because
well,
you get to see the overlay to the Haunted Mansion,
mhm,
which
Mhm.
is a holiday. It's part of our holiday conversation, right? It's an
mhm.
incredible overlay,
True.
probably the best overlay they do, I think, of all of the Disney properties. Period.
And
Agree.
honestly, like to convince my wife to go during the time of her birthday, I was like, okay, I got to go hard. So like, I'm like,
There you
like I have to like try to impress her, especially when I'm going to sit 4 hours on a plane. So,
Oh, Disney Disneyland is where it all started, John. It's a
mhm,
more quaint atmosphere. Disneyland and California Adventure. You guys are going to have a blast. I've always described to people that I get families all the time. Why do I want to go to Disney World versus Disneyland? And I always describe to them, Disneyland's where it all started. That was
mhm,
Walt's home. That's where everything started. That's the parks that he built when he wanted to get people and bring them away from the everyday life. Disney
mhm.
World was just the next level. It was the next level. There's a lot more land. Honestly, for a better, I think, more siloed experience, I always recommend people Disneyland first, and then Disney
Yeah,
World after. But
yeah.
I got a strong spot in my heart for Disneyland. I'm excited for you.
Which honestly like brings it back home to kind of like why people like Bob Iger so much is because he had that like I don't want to say well maybe I want to say vibe like he had the parks at heart and and I love Disney World like you tell me I can go to Disney World tomorrow I would be there like that place like that was like my mom before she passed that was her last vacation so like I mean and like the cast members go above and beyond like I showed the PhotoPass photographer the picture of that my mom took at the theme park and he literally said okay stand right here he actually went out of his way stepped out of the line to take the picture where else do you get that like
More.
like despite everything going on with the company and like you read news stories about Disney and it's always negative the magic is in the parks. The magic is in the cast members that get, the magic is just the feeling when you walk and you turn the corner and you see the castle. Boom, mic drop. Like, it's kind of like how things are for me. So, tangent over.
I will. This just side tidbit, John. Don't get your hopes up about the castle at Disneyland.
No,
You're,
I've heard but honestly, like I'm
it's
the type
amazing. I love it, but it's just not Cinderella's
I'm the type
castle.
of person that can walk into like a ballpark and feel the history there. Like when I walked into Fenway Park, I'm like, this is amazing. Like, and it's just because I walked up the center field, like one of the center field sections. I look over and there's the monster. It's just like, this is amazing. You look and see how things are built, how like, you get the feel for it.
You'll
Like,
do just fine then at Disneyland.
yeah.
You'll do just
Oh,
fine
yeah.
at Disneyland.
You will. We'll have to
Yeah.
do a whole nother episode just on
Oh,
Disneyland.
yes.
So,
Yes.
but
We'll
Well,
have to make sure we bring
I,
Nancy on for that one.
Yeah.
We
Yes,
should.
absolutely. So, well, with that being said, that is going to do it for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed it, the discussion and all that other fun stuff. Be sure to like and subscribe. For Alyssa, for Jeff, and I'm John. Thanks for watching, and
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
a little late on the draw, but we'll
Take
have
care,
a great
everyone.
week, everyone.
Take care, guys.
All right.